thank you guys for joining us today. Today's webinar is Marketing versus Finance, Where to Focus to Thrive in 2024. And it's presented by myself and Ben. Give us a hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben.
Right, okay. It'd help if I could get my screen moving. Right, okay, so I'm going to get straight into it, guys. So the speakers today, so myself, I'm Jag Panesar. I run a digital marketing agency called Xpand, and I've got, the business has been going for 16 years. I've got about 18 years experience in marketing and business management. We do things like marketing strategy, branding, web design, search engine optimization, social media, PR, everything that helps you build your brand and get more inquiries. We've delivered projects for brands such as Lindt Chocolate and Tetley Brewery, so that's me.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ben Westerby, Portfolio Finance Director at Westerby Consulting. Work with owner-managed businesses across the country to take the financial headache away and hopefully explain finance. I've worked at places such as Aunt Bessie's, Prince's Soft Drinks.
Great stuff. Cheers, Ben. Right, okay, so let's get into the thick of things. So what it is that you're going to learn about today, the importance and difference between brand building and direct response marketing. I'm going to be talking about understanding where your marketing fits into sales funnels and measuring your marketing to know what's working and what isn't working.
Yeah, from a finance point of view, we're looking at measuring finance metrics to understand what needs to be adjusted to achieve better results. We'll help understand what levers you can pull to help cash flow and the importance of forecasting within your business.
Okay, sorry. Right, okay, this seems to have, sorry, just one moment. That's rather embarrassing. It seems to have taken us right to the back. I'm going to start that again. Just a moment. It took us right to the very last slide. Right, okay, so that's what we'll cover. Okay, a few stats, guys. So 79% of high growth companies have C-suite alignment on marketing performance metrics compared to 55% of lower growth companies. So basically where the key departments are communicating with each other, there's obviously a lot more growth potential there. In this circumstance, we're obviously talking about larger organizations. So some of you may be smaller businesses, you might be one-person businesses, you might be micro business, you might have 100 odd staff. So we're going to be talking about, you're going to hear us talking about departments, you know, the finance department, the marketing department, but don't worry about that too much if you're a micro business, because the reality is if you are running the business as an individual, you are all departments. So another stat, only 27% of marketing and finance teams have a formal process in place for collaborating on marketing investments. What are these people doing? Why are they not talking to each other? They work for the same organization, everyone has a shared goal, but only 27%, according to this research by Marketing Week, only 27% of the team, marketing and finance teams, are talking to each other. And then another final statistic, 26% of marketing leaders describe their relationship with finance as indifferent, while 7% say it's outright hesitant. So collectively, what is that? That's like over a third are just not really that bothered about what's going on with their relationship. So there's definitely a mismatch. You know, you've got marketing on one side and finance on the other. So there's definitely something that's not quite going right within organizations from a marketing and finance perspective. Now, you'll have heard about the fight between Mayweather and McGregor, yeah? This one's even better. Today is Jag versus Ben. We're going to be punching it out and we're going to be battling out marketing or finance. Which one? Where should you be going with it? What a great picture. I've never seen anyone so happy to be smacked in the face, man. Right, okay, so let's talk about, so I've been in marketing for quite some time. The kind of things I've heard finance people say are, oh, you guys just do the fluffy stuff. Marketing doesn't make any money. Oh, how long is it going to take if we invest in this? Oh no, we can't do it now. We've got a big VAT bill. There's always, it always feels like, these are the negative things that I've heard, which you do latch onto as a marketer and thinking, why are you getting in the way? We've got a shared objective.
Yeah, from my experience working in a variety of different businesses, we get a lot of grief from the marketing department. Just you're only bean counters, you don't really like spending any money. We get accused of stifling creativity. We always get told that actually, if you don't spend on marketing, you've got no sales, and then if you've got no sales, you've got no business, so you'll be out of a job. So it's a bit of a case of it feels like we are just the blockers.
You are just the blockers, unless of course we work together as we are today. Okay, so let's talk about the process. Really broad overview on the process. So you do your marketing in business, which obviously is a lead towards generating sales. That increases turnover, which in line with that increases profit. Happy days, right? That's exactly what we want. And imagine you're in a situation where you're thinking, oh, this is great, whatever we're doing is working. Let's throw some more money at marketing. Let's do some different things and see how it goes. But then what you end up with is in a situation where you've actually got decreased profit. And that's always the challenge with marketing. Yes, it's the finance, it's the finance side of things that you want to obviously make the profit. But it's the marketing. You've got to know what's going on with the marketing and where to invest it and what kind of things to invest it in to make sure that you continually kind of grow as a business. And I think an important thing to point out is, yes, profit is an important thing, but there might be a different objective. You might be in a situation where you think, right, actually, we really want to get our brand out there this year. So we recognize that that might impact our profit a little bit for the year, but it means for the long term, actually, we will become more profitable. But I'll talk about that a bit more through my stuff, which is, as it goes, it's my part right now. So let's talk marketing. Let's talk about the importance and difference between building a brand and direct response marketing. So that's just what I was actually just talking about just then. So firstly, what is brand building? Brand building, it's the process of creating a strong positive perception of a company, its products or services in the customer's mind. It can include things like advertising, PR, customer service, and these are all designed to build awareness, establish the brand identity, and differentiate the brand from competitors. And of course, that includes branding in itself as well and creating websites. So a great example of that, very fitting for this time of year, is Coca-Cola. So, they're one of the biggest brands in the world. Whether you like the drink or not, you know the brand. Everyone knows the brand. And the reason for that is they continually drip feed the message to you. They're always drip feeding. You've seen the adverts on TV, their sponsored events. You've seen them all over the place. They're a great example of consistent brand building. Now, what are the benefits of brand building? Of course, as I've just said, increased brand awareness and recognition. If you're constantly putting your SME out there, you're being remembered all the time. On average, you will see between 3,000 and 25,000 brand messages per day. If you think about when you open up your phone and you go onto Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, you're being pounded with messaging, and that's just your phone alone. You have to have touch base with a brand, a message at least 7 times, have a need or a want for it, and then you're going to take action. So the importance of that regularity of brand building is very important. A more positive brand image and improved customer loyalty. The more that you kind of feel familiar with a brand, you are going to be more likely to buy from it. Of course, reduce marketing costs, and then of course higher sales and profits. So if you're in a position where people build an intrinsic value for the brand and they think, when it comes to me needing this particular service or product, they're the guys I always go to because I just know they're reliable, because it's good service and they've got a good brand and it looks professional and they deliver quality and they give me value for money and all those kind of things. But what creates a successful brand? A really important thing that's massively overlooked is a clear and consistent brand message. And by that, I mean, not just, we're very good at what we do. We're here to provide you with all your solutions for your building and window cleaning needs or whatever. It needs to be a message that speaks directly to the audience, speaks to their pain points. There needs to be a strong brand identity. People often mistake brand for a logo. Your brand is so much more than that. As we explained in a couple of slides ago, it's about, your brand is about how people perceive you. It's that vision they have in their mind. I could say to you, what is the difference between Aldi and Marks and Spencer's? You will have a perception. There's a cost difference, but there's also a perceived quality difference as well. Not so much now, actually, because Aldi is winning all kinds of awards for these kinds of things. But historically, there was always that perception. High quality products and services, excellent customer service. So your brand, again, this demonstrates why your brand is not just the logo. The brand is how people feel about it. So if you have great service the next time you go to a restaurant, that adds to the overall brand experience. And that applies, I'm giving a lot of business to consumer examples here, but think of it in a B2B environment. If a customer or a client has a great experience, that's just going to add to your overall brand perception from their side. And of course, effective marketing and advertising. You need to consistently drip feed and get that message out there in front of them. So that's brand building. What is direct response marketing? So basically, it's something that it's something that can be aimed to generate an immediate and measurable response from customers, typically through a call to action or a CTA. For example, on a website is call now or get a quote. You're trying to get them to do something. You'll never see a Coca-Cola ad that says, buy now, buy now, buy now. They're just reminding you, here we are, here we are, here we are. And it's there because obviously they're so much further in the journey than an SME. So what are the key characteristics of direct response marketing? So as I mentioned, measurable results. You need to be able to track and measure so you can assess what's working and what isn't working. And that's where, digital marketing is brilliant for that kind of thing. Clear calls to action, as I mentioned, things like get in touch now or download now or sign up for free, something that's clearly enticing you to do something. And then another example could be time sensitive offers, buy now, we've just had Black Friday. So that's a great example. Everyone thinks, all right, well, I won't buy this thing until Black Friday because that's when I'll get the offers. So that's a great example of direct response marketing. Common channels for this kind of thing can be email marketing, paid advertising, and by paid advertising I mean things like maybe pay-per-click advertising, which is the Google ads that you see right at the top of Google, or it could be social media paid advertising. So the third circle in is social media. So you also get organic social media where you're just posting content organically, and direct mail, not something you see so much of these days, but it's still a direct response mechanism. What you need, guys, you've got brand building and you've got direct response marketing. You need a combination of both. This Venn diagram demonstrates, the things that I mentioned on brand building, like social media, customer service, and PR. It shows it isn't just the marketing department's responsibility for your brand building. Customer service, we cannot, as an agency, yes, we can give advice, but we cannot be the people that are answering the calls or doing the job or whatever they're doing. And then, like I said, on the direct response marketing side of things, your email marketing, social media, paid advertising, direct mail, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they need to work side by side. We often get inquiries from people and they basically want to go straight into the direct response marketing side of things. They want to appear at the top of Google straight away and they want us to do email marketing. But if they're organic, if their brand isn't right and the brand message and the visual brand or the website isn't right, we often have to take them back to the beginning and say, fix that bit first, because only then are you going to get good results from the next part. So they need to work hand in hand. Okay, next point, understanding where your marketing fits into the sales funnel. So this is a classic sales funnel. We all go through this process, whether we're buying a house or buying a packet of gum, but the example I'll give you is buying a car. So your car's broken down. So you decide, right, okay, I want to buy a BMW or an Audi. So you're aware of BMW and Audi. You're being targeted by them. You go onto their, you know, you're being targeted by them, and you've seen the billboard adverts, you've seen the TV adverts, you've seen them on social media. So you're part of their audience. So you think, okay, well, let me go into the next stage. You go into stage 2, which is consideration. So you go onto their website, you check out the BMW website, you check out the Audi website, and then you decide, right, I'd like an Audi A5 or a 3 Series BMW. You then go into the engagement stage, and you go into the car dealership and you test drive both cars, and you decide, right, I want to buy an Audi, so you move into the purchase stage. You then go into the retention stage when 3 years later, the car that you bought, the dealership calls you up and says, Mr. Panesar, we'd like you to buy, would you be interested in buying the next model up for this amount of money? So that's a classic sales funnel. Now, you know, where does your marketing fit into this? You know, for the awareness, the fundamental thing is your brand building. Firstly, the brand, the visual brand, the website, the PR, how it all operates has to be the first starting point of how it all works well. And then you can kind of continually message as you're funneling through the channel. So email marketing is a great tool in between each stage to just continually remind, because think about it, when you're a buyer, if you're considering buying a BMW and you're considering buying an Audi, these two are competing against each other. So your clients will obviously be speaking to somebody else as well. So regular communication with them through something like email marketing, or connecting with them on LinkedIn if you're in a B2B environment, or you know, making sure that you know, they're aware of all the regular things that are going on. A great example is retargeting on social media. So, you know, how many times have you, say, for example, looked at something on social media, on a website, and then you've gone onto your Instagram or Facebook, and those ads suddenly start appearing? That's retargeting that's been put in place. A great example actually is the way it works is it shares an IP address. And years ago for my birthday, my wife was buying me a laptop bag, a lovely laptop bag that I was really wanting. I can't remember the name of the brand now, but a couple of weeks before my birthday, I suddenly started getting served adverts for that particular brand of bags. And I asked her, I said, have you bought me a laptop bag? And she said, no. And I said, are you sure? Because I'm getting served ads. And she couldn't keep a straight face. And that's probably a downfall within the technology, because it was obviously checking the IP address that we were both running our Wi-Fi from. So that's a great example. Obviously, it was serving the regularity of the ads. It's not a great thing for surprises, but it just shows how the technology works in that way. So it's that regularity of communication, no matter which channel you're working through, is what kind of leads further and further into the purchase stage. Measuring your marketing to know what's working and what isn't. So what kind of things can you measure? You know, we've only got a limited amount of time here, so, you know, there's not a lot that I can go through. But for example, if it's social media, you know, the starting point, you put a post out, it's impressions and reach. That's the very first thing that'll give you an indication on how many people are actually laying eyes on whatever you're putting out. Engagement, you know, how many people are liking what you're putting out there. And then comments, you know, again, liking and comments are two different forms of engagement. So they're things you can measure. Okay, they don't lead to immediate money coming in, but it's a starting point because it's brand building. People are becoming aware of your brand. If you're doing email marketing, a really good thing to look at is the open rates and then the click-through rates. How many people are clicking on the links that should be going to your website? Because again, that indicates how many people you're taking through step by step into the process going closer to a purchase. Or SEO and pay-per-click. SEO is search engine optimization. That's organically getting your website to the top of Google, and pay-per-click is the Google ads you see at the top. So things like looking at the rank positions, whereabouts in Google are you, and ad performance when it's pay-per-click. You know, you can get all those kind of stats. So these are real top level kind of things that you can measure when you're looking at the SEO, looking at kind of these three channels for marketing. So what else would you, when an inquiry comes in, there needs to be a system. Make sure you've got a system in place for measuring the source of inquiry. You know, where is the inquiry coming from? Because if that's not that data is not being measured, you're not going to know what's working marketing wise. And then from there, what are the conversion rates? You can know then, if you know that someone's come from Google and someone else has come from an email and someone else has come from Facebook, kind of what sales are converting from where, because the messaging that's going on your Google ads on your pay-per-click versus the messaging on your social media, if you've got a low conversion rate via social media, it could mean that the message is not right, or it could mean that the audience is not right. So just look at where your conversion rates are coming from each channel, which connects into what your turnover is per channel. And then of course, that allows you to measure your return on investment. So you'll know what you've spent on each channel of marketing, and you'll know what you've got from each channel of marketing. So put it very simply, there's all kinds of ways you can look at it in depth, but the very basic element is how much have you got from it, and how much have you put into it, and how much have you got from it. I'll give you an example. Pinder Cooling is a client of ours. They came to us about 3 or 4 years ago. They do air conditioning, commercial air conditioning installation throughout the north of England. Now, this is what their logo looked like. I'm sure you'll all agree it looked like something like that belongs on the front of an American football t-shirt. And the client came to us and said, I'm currently with a supplier that I'm not happy with. Let's have a chat. And I said, okay, great. He wanted search engine optimization, he wanted pay-per-click marketing, and he wanted a few other things. And I said, look, we can do all that, but the brand, when you look at your competition, it isn't right. We need to get that bit started first. We need to look at that. So we went through the whole process of rebranding them. So this is the rebrand. And then, looking at their key messaging, looking at their values, and then passing that through everything. So as you can see, there's a picture of the vehicles that he's had wrapped. They've got it all over the uniforms. They've got it all over the building. They've got it all over their website, which we built for them. And that was very carefully put together as a lead generation tool, not just something to look pretty. I mentioned calls to action. There's a big get a quote button at the top, because for these guys, that's a fundamental part for people to fill in the form, and then that generates the inquiry. The things that we did for them in terms of their direct response marketing, we continue to do, is their search engine optimization, their pay-per-click marketing, and their email marketing. And the last measurement that we had from them was over a 12-month period, we generated them £290,000 of quotes directly from our activity, because we can measure every single piece of activity that's happening. The client's happy and continues to work with us. So when we look at the Pinder combo from the Venn diagram I showed you before, on the left side, we've got brand building, the branding, the website, and the PR. So we had to get all the branding and website started first. And then we got the email marketing, the paid advertising, and the SEO rolling out. So it was a step, it was kind of a linear process, but them working together is what continues to kind of help the business grow. And of course, I mentioned customer service. They continue to grow. They're a great business. They offer great service, and that's what just keeps customer loyalty. So over to you, Ben. That's a pretty good argument, I would say.
Thanks for the warm-up pack, Jag. Now on to the main event. I'm sure this is what everybody's here for. So let's talk finance. So can go on to the next slide, please, Jag. So finance, what's it all about? It's not just about compliance. It's not just about people in grey suits sat behind a desk all day. Finance now is about being much more commercial. And for me in particular, it's about how you can add value within a business. So what metrics to measure? I think it's safe to say that most businesses will know what level of sales they've got, and so they'll know what they've sold. They will probably know what cash they've got in the bank, and hopefully they will know what they're spending, even if that means they've got to look at the bank statements and review it. And so we know what people have got to measure. But how long does it take to get that information? I think we'll all agree making decisions in business is hard enough, but you want to have that information available as soon as possible. If you're not finding out your sales until later on, it's difficult. But we do this in our personal lives. If we think back to when we got pocket money, and I can neither confirm nor deny that that is a picture of me as a child. If you think back, so when you get pocket money, it's quite simple in effect. You do jobs and you get paid some money. You then might do some more jobs and then you get paid some more money. So the more jobs you do, the more you're paid. Probably as a child, you get in your pocket money, you're wanting to save up for something. So it might have been you're saving up for a football, it might be like you're saving up for a bike, the thing that you wanted. So you're getting towards that. So that's relatively simple. But then what it is you can get tempted then and start to buy other things. So you've got your pocket money, you're doing your jobs, you've got your money coming in, you pay, but then you go out and buy some sweets. So that bike's good, but it's not instant. So you go out and buy some sweets. So that's pocket money, but how does that relate to business, or am I just babbling on? So if you think about from a business perspective, the things that we've probably all heard of, we've got sales or revenue. So that's your money that you're getting for selling your product to your customers. You've got any variable costs, so your costs that can change, and that could be like overtime, it could be travel costs, it could be entertainment, it might be how much you spend on marketing. You've got fixed costs, and that's typically salaries. You've got maybe rent, you've got rates, you might have lease payments for vehicles. You've got tax. Not everybody likes to talk about it, but you make money, you pay tax. You get to a certain size, you charge VAT, you pay tax. Hopefully at the end of all that, there's some money left over, which will be our profit. But what measures are right for my business? And it's not a simple answer, to be fair. It could depend on what your business goals are. A lot of businesses, when you start out, you're like, right, I need to survive, so cash is most important, and profit might be slightly secondary. You might want to grow your sales, you might want to get rid of some stock. So I think it depends on your business goals. It depends on variable costs. There's a lot of businesses that start out that could be service-based. They might have a high fixed cost base and very little variable cost. But then you might have a delivery business that needs to monitor fuel, that needs to monitor how much you're spending on tyres. So it depends on the type of business you've got. I think most businesses will have some kind of sales targets, and we all like targets. I think if you've got business development people, you'll set them targets, and it's typically to grow. You might be specific in terms of what clients or industries. And then on the flip side of that, and probably a place where marketing and finance do probably tend to clash quite a bit, is spend targets. So we know if anybody works in a bigger business, even smaller businesses, you get set a budget, and you can be quite rigid with that, going, oh, you can't spend your budget, or you've overspent, or have you spent it? So I think it very much depends, but I think definitely have sales targets, definitely have some spend targets, and then you can personalize other targets for your type of business. So let's put it simply, just from a cash perspective. If we remember back to pocket money, when you strip it all back, it's quite simple. The money that you've got plus the money that you earn minus what you spend is the cash that you've got. Now, if business finances were simple, I'm sure we'd all be happy with that. Unfortunately, it's not always like that. So from a business perspective, what can impact the cash? What can impact your cash flow? Your customers and money in. So typically, if you think back, the pocket money, you did a job, you got paid straight away. Wouldn't that be great from a business perspective? Sometimes customers don't pay straight away. They might take longer. They might not even pay to terms. What also impacts cash, you've got committed costs. You've got your rent that you need to pay every month. You've got your staff that you need to pay every month. I don't think they're just coming in because they enjoy working with you. You've got tax, whether it's VAT, whether it's corporation tax at the end of the year. You've also got tax that you pay on employment as well. You've got variable costs, so that could be travel. It could be energy costs. There's various things that can go in there. If you borrowed a loan, so quite topical at the minute, people are probably still paying back some bounce back or loans that they got through COVID. So you've got that's a commitment. And then you've potentially got an overdraft. A lot of businesses will use overdraft to manage cash spikes and troughs in the business. So if cash is a problem, and I think particularly at this time of year and following the year that we've had, it probably is for a lot of businesses. What levers can you pull? The first thing to look at is payment terms. how long is it taking you to get paid from your customers? Are they paying to terms? What terms are you paying your suppliers on? And are you paying them to terms? Are you finding that your suppliers want paying up front and your customers want 60 days credit? So I think you need to look at that and have those conversations. Invoice timing. It sounds simple. At what point do you invoice? Some people invoice at the start of a job. Some people invoice every week, every month. The invoice timing can depend on when you get paid. I know if you send invoices in late, typically some people will say, oh, you've missed this week's run, you're going to have to go on later. So that's a big one to focus on. Bank and overdraft, I mentioned it on the previous slide. A lot of businesses use that because cash does come in. Sometimes you might be getting something that you didn't expect. You might end up with a bill that you didn't expect. You might end up with a delayed payment. If you've got a facility of a bank overdraft, it helps smooth that out. Directors' loans, in some businesses, you might be in a position where a director can loan the business money for a short period of time. If you want to grow and there might be a big funding gap, you might look at getting an external investor in. And if you didn't want that, there are other funding options available. Potentially there's some grant funding, there's match funding, there's loans. There's a lot of different options out there now, I think more than probably what there ever has been, and it's finding the right one to suit your business. So then we go on to business, and we talked about forecasting. I think we'll all agree we all like an element of certainty. However, everybody tells you to do a forecast. It can't all be positive. Doing a forecast is never going to be 100% accurate. You'll do a forecast, and whether you forecast sales, whatever it is, it will be slightly different. To produce a forecast, if you've not got the right resource in-house, it can be expensive to get people in to do it, and it depends in terms of what you want. It can also take a lot of time, and again, it's about being clear in terms of what you want, and it takes up resources within the business because you need to speak to people to say, what are you going to do here? What are your plans for the future? So they're the downsides of forecasting. At which point, once we've got through the downsides, you might ask, why bother with forecasts then if there's downsides and it can be expensive, it can take a long time? I think in a business sense, we all like targets. I think even if we look personally, we do something, we maybe go out for a run and we go, right, I want to run at this point, at this speed. Whereas a forecast does help give everybody else in the business a target. It also helps identify gaps. If you're forecasting what you're going to do as a business next year, you could have a look, and you might have some gaps in terms of you might not have enough vehicles to fulfill orders, and you might not have enough people to do that. Or there might be a case of there might be certain months of the year that are looking quiet, so you know when to target, which then leads on to the fact that you can plan for any shortfall or overperformance. If you know you're going to have a gap, you know that you need to go out to try and get some work in at that point. Or if you're actually going to exceed what your current capacity is, you might need to go out and maybe get some short-term resource or hire some vehicles that help you with that. And one thing I'd always say when you're forecasting is do a couple of different scenarios so you can have a look, right, if everything goes well, this is what happens. If we do this, this is what happens. So you've got a few different options of what could happen in the future. So some of the other benefits of forecasting, it helps build relationships. So if you're doing a forecast, it might mean that you touch base with your customers to engage to see what their plans are for next year. It might mean you speak to some of your suppliers to make sure that they've got the capacity to be able to do this work. And it might help with planning investment. So I've mentioned about if you deliver a product, you might need to expand your fleet, so you might need to invest in another vehicle. It might be a case that you need to invest in more resources for your team or a different skill set. By forecasting in advance, what you can do, it gives an element of where you're likely to be in the year. So maybe you can fix some prices. What it then does as well, it allows you to commit to certain things as well if you're on the fence. Some things might need a 3, 6, 9, 12-month commitment, and doing a forecast to understand where you might be allows you to do that. It also I think it assists with growth because it shows you the steps. Often when you forecast, you're forecasting to go somewhere you've never been before, and you're not just going to jump from A straight through to Z. A forecast shows you how you can do that either by week or month and what the steps are you need to take. So just give a real example of something where I've worked where the business probably didn't communicate particularly well across departments. So I worked with a business that committed to run a marketing campaign, and I were brought in after the event. The business didn't fully understand the impact that this campaign would have on profit. The campaign increased sales, but the extra cost to run the campaign meant that profit reduced because they'd needed a much bigger amount of sales to make it a profitable promotion. So I'll give you an example. If you make 25% margin on selling a product, and you would need to spend £1 on marketing, and it'd have to generate over £4 to be positive from a profit perspective. So if you spend £1 on marketing, your sales increase by £4. It's like absolutely fantastic. We're doing a great job, but your margin increases by £1. Therefore, your profit increase is nil. If we have a look at how that's made up, so your gross margin increases by £1. So we think about, a lot of people talk around sales. Sometimes we don't talk around margin, and it's important that we understand that. So you've made an extra £1, but you've had to spend £1 on marketing for that. So the impact in profit is nil. Now, I have worked in places where we've deliberately run promotions and sold products not to make any money, which might sound a bit daft, but actually there's a reason for that. If you're a business that sells a product, you might have a lot of stock and you just want to convert that into cash. You might want to grow your sales, and as Jag mentioned earlier, you might want to get your brand out there. I think what I'm trying to say across this is it's important that you understand what you're trying to achieve whenever you start to do something and commit to some spend, and having that discussion across departments can help align that. And it's one doing it on its own. Like a finance person wouldn't agree to sign off a promotion if it was nil profit, but when you talk to a market person, they'll be going, well, actually this is the short-term impact and the longer-term impact. And I think it's also useful at this point to point out, Jag's talked about a couple of things. We've talked about direct response market, we've talked about brand building. The example I'm using here is particularly around direct response, because I think brand building's probably a longer discussion for another day, Jag.
Yeah, it definitely is. But it's often the thing that's massively overlooked because it's just not as measurable. So I think that's a great point that you just made there.
So in this, just because you increase your marketing spend, it doesn't necessarily mean that your profit will increase, even if your sales increase. And as we've just said, I think it's important to have those discussions and understand what you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. So the question is, where do you focus? The title is Marketing versus Finance, where to focus to thrive in 2024. Well, back to the good old Venn diagram. Really, they need to work together. The magic will happen when they're working together. The very first statistic that I showed you showed that where you've got, you know, the C-suite level working together in marketing and finance, that's where they're achieving the highest levels of growth. So think about the stuff that I've talked about, you know, your brand building and your direct response marketing, that's what gets you your overall sales growth. And it may not necessarily happen, you know, within 6 months. You know, the brand building is a much longer term thing that builds a credibility and the equity within the brand, which creates the intrinsic value for people to make them want to buy from you. And then, you know, that combined with the finance side of things, which Ben?
Yes, I think from a finance point of view and what we're working with, we set budgets out that we need to manage through. We need to manage cash. We've said there, we know there's bills that come in and how we manage that. But the goal for all of it is that hopefully that leads to, over a longer term, an increased profit.
Absolutely. So to take it a step further, this isn't a pretty picture of a flower. think about all the departments within your business. Again, whether you're one person or if there are hundreds or thousands of you, every department needs to work together in the same way. So this is a rather convoluted Venn diagram, but again, it shows the exact same thing. We've demonstrated sales, finance, HR, ops, marketing, with them all working together. That is where you hit the sweet spot and, you know, really get that ultimate achieve the goal that you're after. You know, every department in your organization, it's got a symbiotic relationship. It's like the organs in the body. You know, the body is not going to function efficiently if one is not performing right. You have to get them all overlapping and working together. So, folks, what you should now know, you should know the importance and difference between brand building and direct response marketing, understanding where your marketing fits into sales, into the sales funnel, measuring your marketing to know what's working and what isn't, measuring finance metrics to understand what needs to be adjusted to achieve better results, understanding what levers to pull to help cash flow, and the importance of forecasting for your business. So hopefully that's something that's helped you all in terms of getting a good broad overview of things you need to look at for next year and generally in business in order to be able to have a really successful year. So does anybody have any questions? I'm going to move to this slide, the final slide as well, which is a QR code to our LinkedIn page. If we're not connected, let's connect on LinkedIn. Any questions? Okay, so no questions. Well, great stuff. Okay, well, thanks guys. Thanks for attending today. I hope you found it useful. And yeah, I hope you all have a great Christmas. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, guys.